Welcome to another edition of the AsIs podcast. I am your host, Shabazz. How's everybody feeling today? Hopefully, this podcast finds you in the best mental, physical, and spiritual health. Hopefully, this podcast puts a smile on your face, give you something to think about. I wanna let you ride with me, relax, and think. Kick back, just some positivity to bring into your day, if you allow me to do that. You know, today's podcast is going to be a podcast to talk about a variety of things. Seems like so much stuff has happened that you almost can't keep up. In any event, you know, I want to start this podcast off, and I'm going to give a special shout out to what might have been considered enemies. And I think enemies is a strong word. So I say that playfully. I am going to definitely target Spit and Fire. Because Spit and Fire, you know, had something to say about me on her show. And it's all love, shorty. Like, I got no beef with you. You win. You know, like I just don't even want to beef with nobody. Whatever I say is, you know, what it is. You don't have to always agree with it, and that's fine. But it will know. I said, you know, the beef is done, is dead. Like, I got nothing against you, shorty. Keep doing what you do. And is it okay if I call you Big Mama? I say that with love. You know, let me just tell you this. You know, city boys back in the days used to go down south. You know, everybody knows what they did when they went down south. You went down south as a child for one or two things, and not as a child, as a teenager. You know, in the black family, the South was where the family sent the uncle that was addicted to drugs to get away. Because, you know, you got to change your people, places, and things. And the other boys who were involved in illegal activities would always target southern places because the prices are double. But one of the things that they also targeted were the women. And who don't love a thick woman from the South? Collard greens and cornbread. I know you've heard that before. So when I say Big Mama, Spit and Fire, it's in love. So don't, you know, please. No, as a matter of fact, I'm not going to ask you to release the dragons, because I'm one of them kind of dudes. I like the dragons. That don't bother me. You know, that keep me on point. So with that being said, let me move on to the next. And the next is Sharon Winbush. Got no beef with you no more either. Never really did. It was a misunderstanding. So with that being said, I'm not going to harp on it. However, there's something that I'd like to address that definitely came from her show. And it is the fact that they are raising money for R. Kelly, or for Bruce Kelly. You know, there's one thing about being honest. You know, sometimes honesty can hurt you because people will use your honest qualities and your content against you. But you have to learn to respect the game and take that. You understand? And a lot of times people don't want to take that because they feel like, if I say this, they're going to say that. Or, you know, feelings are going to get involved. And what starts off to be innocent usually turns into something else because of an honest statement. So, you know, I'm as is. You know, I created my company. It's as is. It's what it is. You're going to accept me for what I am, or you don't accept me at all. And you have to be firm in that belief. You know, you don't have to follow my thought process. You know, everybody does what they do on their own. Excuse me. So in any event, the reason why I'm saying this is because, you know, she said on her show that Bruce was receiving or needed to receive cash apps. Now, as far as I know, Bruce is a good dude. You know what I'm saying? I have nothing against Bruce. Again, forewarning, I have nothing against Sharon. However, you know, the brother's in a rehab. You know, Sharon and I had several discussions, and she had told me he was in a rehab and he was getting his stuff together. And that is to be commended. So I am not taking a shot, you know, at someone trying to get their life together. You know, we all fall short sometimes of whatever it is we fall short of. However, you know, sending money to somebody in a rehab is not good. You understand? It's not a good combination because that person is still trying to focus on getting themselves together. And what money does is that it allows them a way to escape, to go back to get, whatever it is that they were in rehab for. You understand? And what also amazed me about that request is, the family of R. Kelly. As much as people talk about those aren't his sisters, which I'm talking about Lisa and Cassandra, and people say Levi isn't his cousin, they're stuck on 3 people individually in the family outside of the kids and Andrea. And that is Bruce, Teresa, and Carrie. So as far as I knew, they were also in Chicago. I have no idea what Teresa's at, so let me just say that for the record. So I don't know which family members are attempting to come. They weren't in New York. Except with the exception of maybe Carrie, but I didn't see them, and I was there to see what was going on. Lisa and Cassandra was there. So in any event, what I'm saying is I just don't know if that's wise. I'm not hating to tell you not to try to, assist that brother in getting his family together, but I think y'all need to do it a different way. That's just my personal opinion. And again, the reason why I gave the disclaimer and told you about the hate is because it's going to appear as if you're hating. No, I'm not. See, understand, on this podcast, on my show, we call a spade regardless to who it's about, because that's being non-biased. You understand? When you make a friendship something where you have to protect and then lie, you're not really that person's friend. The only way to fix a problem is to be honest about it. If you're not honest about it, then you never really fix the problem. And the people that assist in that are enablers. And enabling a black man in the black community is a black problem. It's bad. You understand? So that's why I said what I said. So let me move on. Let's talk about some of the things that were in the news. Yes, I physically seen this in the news. And who I want to start off on is Andrew Wyatt. For those of you who do not know, Andrew Wyatt is the spokesperson for Bill Cosby. He made several comments and told a story about R. Kelly and what was going on. And I have to dispute his entire story. And I want you to listen to me closely and understand. Andrew Wyatt says that, there were people emailing him and calling him and asking him why he wouldn't help out R. Kelly, because he's supposed to help out a black man. All right. I don't know, I'm not, if that's what he said, that's what he said. But here's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, Bill Cosby went through what Bill Cosby went through. I am not going to be judge, jury, and executioner. The man beat his charges. He beat his charges. My personal opinion on what Bill Cosby was alleged to have done is my personal opinion, so that's irrelevant. What I will say, though, is when you come from that kind of an atmosphere, you have to be very careful to the topics that you take on. When you take on a topic of R. Kelly, where there are some similarities with sexual charges, you have to be very careful and you have to be accurate. I found a lot of inaccuracies in his comments, and here's why. He says that he's the one who found Jennifer Bonjean. I have someone who directly disputes that. I have an interview with a young lady, and it's a female with another female who actually said they are the ones responsible for getting Jennifer Bonjean. I am going to play that in a later podcast. I had been saving it, and it's a good thing that I did save it because they're going to dispute exactly what he says. But let's just take, for example, that he's telling the truth. Well, if you were telling the truth and you got, R. Kelly the help he needed by Jennifer Bonjean, you're now taking shots at Steve Greenberg. Now, understand where I'm going with this. They say that Greenberg had R. Kelly sign over his royalty checks. Now, I'm going to give you the pro to that and the con to that. R. Kelly didn't have any money. Steve Greenberg is a 6-figure salaried lawyer for his cases. How else could he have been paid other than a royalty check? Like, he didn't have money. So what was he going to do? Take the case for free? Contrary to what people believe, pro bono cases on that level are rare. Some people are under the misconception that Jennifer Bonjean is working for free. That's not true. I guarantee you that is not true. Now, I do not know if Steve Greenberg took his royalty checks. What I found in my investigation was that R. Kelly signed over his life rights to Steve Greenberg, and that's what made him take the case. Now, we all know what life rights are, and I guess he was under He was under the mentality of, because they put out Surviving R. Kelly, that there's a value in his story. And someone with insight and foresight would say, 20 years from now, they may make an R. Kelly movie. And that R. Kelly movie is going to be millions of dollars. So if you have some money already, you can sit back and take that signature and just plan for when they drop the movie. That is what I was told. And that is what my investigation showed me that Steve Greenberg did. Not the royalty checks, but the life's rights. Now, I'm going to give you another person who's done the same thing, but he sold his life's rights all over. Suge Knight. Suge Knight sold his life's rights to Ray J, Brandy's little brother, the singer, and to several other companies because he doesn't have any money. So there are 4 or 5 different people and organizations running around believing that they have the rights to tell Suge Knight's story because one day it may turn into a movie. And up until today, there are 100 documentaries on Death Row, NWA, Suge Knight, etc., etc. Someone is going to eventually make a full-fledged movie. And I guess in his situation, whoever comes with it first will make the most money. That is a parallel directly to R. Kelly. Now, let me go into exactly where I dispute Andrew Wyatt. He says that he was trying to get him a lawyer. Well, if Andrew Wyatt was trying to get him a lawyer and the lawyer that he chose was Jennifer Bonjean, and you say you're helping, that's not help. See, you guys are going to be mad at me because you're going to say I am critical of Jennifer Bonjean. Now, if I can tell you that Bruce does not need to get money because he's in a rehab, Jennifer Bonjean should deserve the same type of commentary. Understand now. If we're going to call spades a spade, let's call a spade a spade. You understand? We're not taking shots at anyone, but what we're going to do is say exactly what it is. Now, with Jennifer Bonjean being the so-called help that was acquired by Andrew Wyatt, why would he pick Jennifer Bonjean? And Jennifer Bonjean, at one time or another, worked allegedly, according to Steve Greenberg himself, she was his peer, his co-partner on some cases. You're trying to help R. Kelly with Steve Greenberg because that's what you're doing. Although you've gotten Jennifer Bonjean has a tie to Steve Greenberg. People say Steve Greenberg was a schmuck, right? They say that he was a scumbag and he took advantage of R. Kelly. But you go and you get someone that he deals with to continue to deal with R. Kelly. Now, let me take you a little deeper because that doesn't make sense to me. Another deeper part is Jennifer Bonjean is a very popular lawyer based on getting ex-criminals, or people that are innocent out of jail. She's done that several times. Applause, cheers to her. However, she's also one of those people who's been given credit for being something that she's not. And let me tell you why I say that. Because according also to Jennifer Bonjean and to people, in the atmosphere, they believe that Jennifer Bonjean is the lead lawyer for Larry Hoover. I know the Hoover family. I'm the only person who's ever done a Larry Hoover story. You understand? And it was authorized, which means it came directly from Hoover. You see what I'm saying? I sent his mother to get permission to tell that story in ADFX Florence, Colorado. Shabazz did. Right now, they're beefing. Jay Prince has a problem with WAC 100, and I'm not getting into those politics of it, but it is over the story of Larry Hoover. I don't know what WAC 100 did or didn't do, but I know mine was all authorized because that's how I move. So with that being said, I have some relation to some of those family members. In addition, I have relations with brothers that are in those organizations. Jennifer Bonjean is not Larry Hoover's lawyer. She is a part of the team. Larry Hoover's lawyer was personally hired by Jay Prince, and his name is Justin Moore. He's a black man. So now, why do I say that? I am telling you the Andrew Wyatt story of trying to help a black man is garbage. You understand? Because when you try to help a black man and you have money as another black man, what you do is you get the lawyer who will probably be black and you pay the lawyer. That's what Jay Prince did with Justin Moore, not Jennifer Bonjean. So, y'all are giving her credits and titles that she doesn't deserve. It is not true. You understand? But Andrew Wyatt is running around spilling that. Now, let me give you another one. He goes on to say that he got Tom Mesereau. Now, be mindful. This is Bill Cosby's spokesperson who was supposed to have helped R. Kelly. How can you help R. Kelly? By going to get Tom Mesereau. Tom Mesereau was Michael Jackson's lawyer. Tom Mesereau is a 6-figure salary attorney. He comes to Chicago, and I'm there when that happened. I am definitely around because I was offered the opportunity to take an interview and do with him. I declined to do that. He didn't decline me. I declined the interview. I didn't see the relevance, and what really not made me see the relevance was this. He didn't take R. Kelly's story because he wanted, I think it was between $3 to $3.5 million to take his case. Now, be mindful. Andrew Wyatt is sitting up here telling y'all, I got Jennifer Bonjean. I got Tom Mesereau. How did you get these people and you paid nobody and you're saying that you were trying to help a black man? I dispute that. And I wish somebody, if you got a direct source to him and you can listen to my podcast, I challenge you because that's not true. You are smoke and mirrors. And here's the problem again in the R. Kelly saga. Everybody is coming out with these stories, and based on their credibility, based on the amount of people that are listening, people believe that crap. And it's not true. So how he could comfortably sit somewhere and say something about what he did for R. Kelly and you believe him is beyond me. Because dig, he went from Jennifer Bonjean, who was actually a former partner and friend of Steve Greenberg. And from Steve Greenberg, somehow or another, he went to Tom Mesereau. And Tom Mesereau wasn't paid, and there was no money to get R. Kelly his legal representation. But you're helping him. How are you helping calling people to send to R. Kelly and you're paying nothing? And then you are including the same people that you are accusing of being a snake with the new team. You understand? So all that's telling me is it's just a rotating circle of snakes and liars. There's no new blood to come in that hasn't been tainted by either an old lawyer or an old liar. Dig what I'm saying? And you know what? Lies will get you got. And here's why I'm going to take you to this lie. I also watched on the news about Don Russel. Don Russel, the alleged manager of R. Kelly. Don Russel at no time was R. Kelly's manager. Period. Again, I am going to tell you guys the truth based on what I seen because I was there. You dig. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like, I was there. I'm watching what's going on. So I know the truth. So what I'm wondering is how are all of these people suddenly coming out on these news stations and getting put in the newspaper being misrepresented with false titles? Don Russel, his claim to fame, and it's not a shot at Don Russel, is that his family owns Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. That is it. That is all. Now, y'all tried to, there are some, I'm not going to say y'all, but y'all tried to belittle me because I was frying chicken in a restaurant that I owned. But everybody has forgotten that Don Russel comes from Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. There's nothing wrong with that. When I go to L.A., I've actually gone there. I like Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. No shots to them, none whatsoever. And even if he owned Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, and even if he didn't, does that not qualify him the right to be able to speak on behalf of R. Kelly? What you do in your personal life has nothing to do with your opinion or who you're trying to help. So I don't even understand the mentality of trying to drag somebody because of that. So be mindful. I'm not dragging him. But what I am telling you is he wasn't his manager. I've bumped heads with Don Russel. I am not going to go into the real stories about Don Russel and the stuff behind him because they're not out yet. But Don Russel knows I know. I can give you a light story. Don Russel called me on the phone and asked me not to put out precedents. He said, in exchange for not putting out precedents, I will give you the story of Prince. I will take you to Prince's family so you can tell that story. If that wasn't good enough for you, I will give you the Michael Jackson family, and you will be able to go and tell Michael Jackson's story. Be mindful. Like the things that I heard about Don Russel from R. Kelly's legal team at the time, they weren't good. They labeled him as crazy. These are the lawyers. Like he's going to talk you to death and he's going to say some weird stuff and he's going to claim to do this and claim to do that. And at the end of the day, it intrigued me and made me wonder, well, how is he a part of that camp? And came to find out, Don Russel's mother did R. Kelly's taxes, and that's how he got involved in the whole R. Kelly saga. I don't know how he got some of his music, because at the time of him offering me Michael Jackson and Prince, he had music of R. Kelly's on his laptop, on his hard drive. How he did it, I don't know. And I don't care, because that's neither here nor there. But that did make him his manager. And because of the stories and the webs that he was weaving, when I'm listening to him tell me about giving him Michael Jackson and giving him Prince, giving me Prince, I'm like, yo, this dude is out of his mind. Because if you have the power to get to those people, the role that you're playing in the R. Kelly camp would have been greater and it would have been different. Come to find out, he didn't have that power. Am I taking a shot at Don Russel? I am not. But is that what happened? That is definitely what happened. We had problems during that tour because I was the one who orchestrated trying to get it set up. I had a contact at AT&T. We were trying to negotiate with them. Shabazz. No one else. Come to find out, R. Kelly was aware of it because a mutual friend told him what Shabazz was doing. At one point or another, R. Kelly must have obviously told Don Russel, because I get a call from corporate at AT&T because they have an entertainment division. And my contact is telling me, Shabazz, have you ever heard of a person named Don Russel? No. She said, and she ends up saying, the exact same thing that you're trying to do and that you told me, he told me. And I'm like, what? So right then and there, I already knew, stay away from dude. That's how I was on it, because I understand everybody that was around R. Kelly wanted to be the big fish to prove that they can make things happen so they can be seen in a greater light in the eyesight of Kelly. You understand? That is why there's so much turmoil, within this camp, because you hear, I did this, I did that, I knew him, I knew that. Everybody has a story, and everyone's story is being told so you can look at them as the big fish. They've done the most. You understand? And that is a problem with people, not just black people, but people. And the problem is they're lying. I will challenge any one of them because, I just never seen none of those people. I've seen a lot of people that were around. I've seen a lot of the people that were behind the scenes. And let me go on the record to tell you this. The people who really had the power has yet to be on anybody's podcast. There's one exception, and that's Keith, which is his best friend, which now I'm being told was his cousin. I never knew they were cousins. I never was told they were cousins. What I knew that was his man, his friend. You understand? But now, the stories are being twisted and turned. And what's crazy about it is that they're making it to mainstream. And mainstream is running with the narrative from the lies these people are putting out. And it's crazy to me. And what people are not understanding, as much as you want to be the big fish and you're jumping into these titles, you're going to jail based on a title that in your heart was a lie. Because Don Russel is getting ready to be convicted, or he was already convicted as far as I know. He's yet to be sentenced. But he's getting ready to go to jail based on him being R. Kelly's manager. Dog, like, how smart was that? Now, in jail, based on what R. Kelly is going through right now in this court case, being R. Kelly's manager is not a good look. Before this court case, if you'd have went to jail and you would have been known as R. Kelly's manager, you would have got some love. You understand? Like, you would have got some I'm the man points. Today, you ain't getting those kind of points. If anything, you might get attacked, because that's just where his name is at right now, in the mud. And, there's a upcoming Chicago trial. And, from what I'm reading, what I know, you have 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds who are involved in that case. And it is going to be very difficult, very hard to get away from that. And if you're found guilty on that, it's going to be a problem. You understand? So the point that I'm trying to make is, when you step into these titles, you should be very careful of how you step into it, especially if they're a lie. And if you're going to start talking Andrew Wyatt, Bill Cosby, Jennifer Bonjean, Steve Greenberg, Nicole Becker, whomever, You better remember that there are people outside who really know the truth. So every time you spill some crap, you might reach the millions and hundreds of thousands and fool them. But there's somebody who knows you're a liar. You dig? And that's not taking a shot. That is being non-biased. Because I know you doesn't mean I'm going to cover for you. You understand? That's not how the game is supposed to go. You know, they say friends don't let friends drive drunk. And that's because you are worried about their best interest or whatever. So if that's true, that means you got to tell them the truth. Like, yo, hold up, son. You can't drive because you drunk. You can't not say that to them because you're in fear of them being mad at you for saying that they're drunk and they might, you know, have an attack or flip out on you. Yo, you know, what's true is true. And this is some of the problems that there are in this whole entire trial. And if it continues, it is only going to complicate it and make it worse. You understand? So let me get away from that. Now let me go into some current events. Oh, you know what? I'm wrong. I'm not going in. I've just done current events on what was currently going on. Let me go into some footage. What I am going to show you today are several different clips, and I am going to try to build a pattern so you can understand my thought process with me filming precedents. The first person that I'm bringing on is a young black lady who comes from the hood. She represented him too. So understand again, you know, I have to be very careful with my words. I come from the hood too. So I'm not saying it to be condescending because I notice people like to try to change my words and make them mean something to fit their narrative. And that is just not what it is. But in any event, she comes from the hood and she has given her opinion based on her upbringing and what she's seen. So she is a direct reflection as to why there are so many people who do not believe the young ladies that are involved in this case. You understand? It's like game identifies game. You understand? She is going to tell you, you know, she was a liar at one time, and she was a liar, as was most women at a time about their age, because one of her son's fathers or her children's fathers was much older. You understand? And she's sitting there saying this in her own free will. You get what I'm saying? And you know what? She made me remind myself of a story. But before I go into that story, I want you to go into this clip. Take a look at her.
I research. See, the thing is that the media, the world, has already put a label on people of color. If you want to hide something, you put it in a book. Man does not take glory in the seeking out information for himself. He has to be told what is right, what is wrong. I'm not that person. So I took the initiative to find out about these women and their backgrounds. These girls are far, and I mean far from being an angel, far from being women, modest women. They wouldn't even understand the word modest if you gave it to them.
Let me ask you this. Come from the black community, we can recognize things in other people that normally other people can't see. It's like the terminology game recognizing game. How many of these type of women do you see every day coming from black experience?
Many of them. Honestly, I'm going to keep it a buck with you. I was promiscuous. I ran in the streets. I lied to men about my age. I did those things. I did. Actually, I have an oldest child, and the guy that I got pregnant by was a lot older than I. And the judge wanted to have him arrested. And I was like, for what? Because I lied. And I'm going to tell you the truth. After I leave here, I'm going to still continue to do what I do, and me and him going to get together. So, you know, I lied to the man. I mean, what's done is done now, you know. But I see it. I know Geronda Pace. I know her MO. I've seen girls like her. I've been around women like that all my life. Not saying that, you know, the women that I don't have class that I'm around, but, you know, because this is my community. I see, I understand, I've been in the streets. These women are not victims.
She said a mouthful, didn't she? Now, she was the direct representative of him too. There were quite a few young ladies that I interviewed, including infamous Sylvia from that day of interviewing. I have not shown all of those clips. But the reason why I wanted to start off with her is because upon first looking at her, you see nothing but pro-black. I guess it's the afro that did it for me. And, it just, I just wanted to hear, I wanted you to hear her mentality. Now, there are going to be some who can identify and agree with her 1,000%. And then there are going to be others who are still going, to dispute it. To each his own. But what I am going to do is tell you something to parallel that, to show the truth in it. So check it. Listen, I haven't always been legal. There was a time in my life that I was illegal. That's not a secret. In any event, during this in particular time, I was on parole. So when you're on parole, you have to either get a job or you have to go to school. Now, me being on parole, that wasn't enough because I was still hard-headed and stupid. You understand? I was still doing what I wasn't supposed to do. And in hindsight, describing it this way, I was stacking my paper quietly and trying to stay within the guidelines and the regulations of what parole dictated. So what I decided to do, working was not in the question. There was no question for that. I wasn't taking no job. And the reason why is because there was no job that could pay me what I was already making. So what I decided to do was go to school. I had a plan. And my plan, I was focused with it. Every once in a while, I'll come up with something and I just get focused. It's like tunnel vision. You think it out and you execute. So the plan was to open up a barbershop. All right. So now I knew that in order to open a barbershop, I needed a barber's license, or I needed a license to operate legally. So I decided I'm going to a school. I ended up going to Wilford Academy of Cosmetology, better known as Wilford Academy. Now, Wilford Academy was opened up back in the days. I don't know if some of you guys remember it, but this in particular Wilford Academy was in New York, and it was on 51st and Broadway. Now, understand, when I enrolled in Wilford Academy, there was nothing but women. Wilford Academy, excuse me, at one time was a big deal. You understand? You had to pay to go. So you were still getting what they call Pell Grants, TAP grants, financial assistance, or you was paying for it out of your pocket. Excuse me, paying out of my pocket was a no-no. One, because I'm on parole, and how am I paying for the school? And I didn't want to do the government granted, assistance and all that. Because to be totally honest, it wasn't that I was too big for it. It was just complicated. I didn't have the time or the patience to sit there and fill out all those applications and go through. Man, that wasn't something I wanted to do. So, and the reason why I'm saying that is because in order for me to even do that, I went to someone, which was a female, to help me, to guide me along the process. So long story short, there are two men in this school, me and this brother named Renee. Now understand, I'm a felon, I'm on parole, and I'm young. And I am in a building, literally, this was a 3-story building of nothing but women. So I was like a kid in a candy store. I was going to school every day. When I got out of school, I did whatever I did, which was trying to stack my paper. But, at that time in my life, even though it was turmoil, I was comfortable. You understand? Even though I was in wrong, I was comfortable because life hadn't really hit me yet the way it hit me when I was older, where I had responsibilities. I had responsibilities during that time as well, but not like now. You understand? So it was carefree is the best way to describe it. So anyway, I'm doing what young men do in a room full of women, and women are doing what young women do with 2 men. So now, in Wilford, right, we would have these classes, and we would always have to pick a partner. And a lot of times the teachers would just pick the partner for you. And usually it would be whoever standing next to whoever would be, that person's partner. Now, I had girlfriends in that school. And during that time, I'll have a girlfriend for 2 weeks, break up with her, move on to the next girl, because there were so many women. You understand? And it's like, I don't think anybody had the intent of a long-term relationship. They just wanted to do whatever it is they could do within the 2 weeks and move on. So during this time now, there's one girl, and she's the baddest girl in the school to me. You understand? Everybody's tastes are different. So, I'm not going to say that she was this or she was that. She was just the baddest girl in the school to me. Now, she was also the baddest girl in appearance and with what she had to other girls. So she was the HNIC. You understand? But she was on a different floor. Wilford Academy had 3 floors. I believe I was on the first floor because the first floor was also the floor that on Saturdays, it was like a display room, if that's what you want to call it. People would have a sign in the window and you can get $2 haircuts. The catch with the $2 haircuts, though, was you were getting your haircut by a student. And you may not have gotten the kind of haircut you wanted. You was going to get some haircut, but it might not have been in the style that was something you would have got up happy with. And I've seen that happen a lot. And the crazy thing about it was people would come in there and literally sit down and take their chances. And sometimes it would be men. But the only reason why, in my opinion, those men came in to sit down and get a haircut is because it was a woman cutting their hair. They fell into the beauty and the booty to get their hair cut. And a lot of times they ended up walking out with a Caesar or bald. Like, I kid you not. So anyway, this girl is on another floor. I'm trying to figure out how I can get next to this girl. Because check it. What intrigued me with her was this. Every day, there's 5 days in a week. Every day, she would come to school with a different dude driving a car, with the exception of 2 days. And I read the pattern. I seen it because I made sure to watch. Understand now, in Wilford Academy, the windows were floor to ceiling. So you can, throughout the entire building, look around, on the west side, the south side, the north side was a full circular of windows. So you can see everything coming. So I would make a mental note to watch and wait for her. Because she was, for me, for me, she was the catch of the century. You know what I'm saying? So when a certain time came, like 9, 10, I'm going to be right next to that window because I want to see. So what I noticed again was every time I turned around, it was a different dude. And she was always pulling up in BMWs. Back in the days, it was Lexus trucks, Mazda MVPs, occasional Mercedes Benzes. It was something different for the times. And it was, we're saying this happened in 2000. She was in a 1999 or 2000. Now, there was one exception. She was always 2 times out of that week with an older guy. Now, I know how old the girl was because I ended up getting with her. Excuse me. So I'm going to tell you her age and all of that. But the older guy had a Mercedes. All right. He had a Mercedes. I remember it was a 300E for back in the day. He was firm. He wasn't like the other guys because even back then, dudes were still wearing sweat hoods and they was wearing Adidas tracksuits and, whatever the style was, it was a young style. But this dude looked like he was going to church. But I don't want to call him a pimp, or the pimp look. The best way to describe him is if you guys are familiar with Stacy Adams. Stacy Adams was actually a shoe brand. When magazines were really heavy in rotation, you might see a Stacy Adams ad in Ebony or in Jet. And you see a black man, he got a hat on, 3-piece suit, like he's sharp from head to toe and everything matches. This is how this dude was. You understand? Now, me being younger, you understand? I didn't really grow up with a father, but he was a father figure. He would have been somebody that, like Big Unk. You understand? Like dudes gravitate and levitate towards those type of dudes, even in jail. The older dudes, they're the OGs. So he was an OG back then. But being an OG, if you come from the streets, you kind of know who's no nonsense and who's somebody that doesn't tolerate whatever. This was, in my head, her main man. The other dudes were play toys. But this dude was serious. So I asked her about him. Now, she kind of brushed him off. She didn't really want to talk about him. She would talk about the other guys and say, yo, he ain't nobody. Oh, that's just my friend or something. And these dudes would always change the rotation. Now, be mindful, while she's telling me this and I'm seeing it, although she is what I really want, I'm still messing with other people. But in my mind, the ultimate is to get her. And I was so strong and so far gone that me getting her, I would have cut everybody else off because she was the prize. And what made her more prizable, if there's such a word, is because how she moved. And that just intrigues me. And honestly, I knew she wasn't shit. Like, I'm just being honest. Like, I already knew that. I see what you're doing with all of these men all the time, so I already know what it is. But I don't know what it is about being attracted to evil. Or being attracted. Girls like bad boys, so I guess guys like bad girls. That's the best way I could describe it. So anyway, long story short, inside of the school, right? I'm having affairs with other women. Everybody's doing what they're doing, but they're solo. You couldn't do it where you was messing with 2 or 3 people at one time. Like I said, it would be 2 or 3 weeks, then move on to the next. A lot of things went down in that school in the elevator. Understand, it was a 3-story building. Now, the elevator was one of the slowest elevators you'd ever want to ride on. It took about 5 minutes to get to each floor. You'd press the button, door open up. It'd sit there for a good 90 seconds before it even moved, and then it just moved very slow. So in all honesty, it felt like it was 5 minutes each way, but I would say it was about 3 minutes to get from the bottom floor to the 3rd floor, literally. And each floor, there was always a girl or always somebody waiting to get on that elevator. Now, some people that didn't have patience would just take the stairs from the 3rd all the way down to the 1st, or from 1 to 2, however. But then there was some people that, they was bored in the class, they just wanted to get away, or they would go get on a smoke break, so they would get on this elevator. But for me, what me and Renee had figured out was that was our have you ever did it on an airplane mentality. You understand? You want to be a part of the Mile High Club. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever been a part of the Mile High Club, but I'm sure you know what that is. It's having intercourse, having sex on a plane. Like, I don't want to get too personal in my business, but then again, I'm telling this story, so I might as well tell that one. I've been involved in that as well. You understand? Like, I've done a lot of things in my life. I'm not proud of everything, but I was a part of the Mile High Club. And there are others that have been a part of the Mile High Club too. And you don't have to just fly, private. You could be on a commercial jet and do the same thing. It's just how far and how much of a risk are you willing to take? So now, before I became a part of the Mile High Club, I was a part of the Elevator Club. Now understand, the Elevator Club was a rush. You dig? The Elevator Club was the fear of it, the getting caught of it. You understand? It just enlightened and heightened what you were doing. And another way to look at it was the elevator was also known as 6 minutes, because you had 3 minutes to get up and 3 minutes to get down. You understand? And if you did your job right, you went up and she brought you back down. You dig? So now, that was planned, orchestrated activities that other people knew, because it was something that they talked about in the school all of the time. It was bragging rights for the women. You have these organizations, and I'm not going to call them organizations, but you have cliques in certain neighborhoods where it's 4 or 5 guys, and the whole objective of all of those guys is to slay as many women sexually as they possibly can. Or you have a house full of brothers, and the brothers are popular, and everybody from 5 miles around at one time, female, has been with one of those brothers, because those brothers was the it brothers. Those brothers had the house that everybody always went to. You understand? So it was that type of mentality in that school. Be mindful. There's only 2 guys in that school, me and Renee. Renee, by the way, was from Haiti. I remember specifically. And this was my man. And the reason why he became my man even more so is because we had to field off the looks, the thoughts, and the questions of if we were gay or not. Because when you're with a bunch of women and, I'm wearing a white uniform and a smock, the first thing that a negative person is going to say is they're gay. But they don't understand that in order to open up a barbershop, you need a barber's license. See, I was more advanced in that thought process than them, because what the average dude was doing back in the days when you was getting money, they would just open up a barbershop and they would get somebody to go to work in the barbershop that had a license, and they would plant their license on their wall, and they was fine and straight. The bad thing about that is it's not really your barbershop. If you're operating under someone else's license, it's technically theirs. And when they find out the power that they have, they take over your barbershop and it's no longer yours. Because if there's a problem or a beef, the first thing they do is snatch their barber's license and they out, and then call them people on you. So me doing it that way was a no-no. It's my money. I'm the one hustling. I'm the one on parole. This is going to be in my name. That was my hidden agenda. Very few people knew my hidden agenda. And the reason why is because I would get asked all the time the gay question, and I would field it off like you must be out your mind. But some people that I got close to, I told the truth and the real reason why I was there. And Renee was one of those people. The girl I'm talking about, she was also one of those people because we ended up really hitting it off. But here, let me tell you the story. So now the orchestration part of being in that elevator, and having your affair, for 6 minutes, you needed somebody to help. You needed an accomplice. And the reason why is because the elevator would stop at each floor. So if you were a popular girl and you had 3 or 4 girlfriends, they would let each other know what's going down. So when I get on the elevator at 12 o'clock, right, I need somebody on the 2nd floor to press the button and hit the button to go back down so the elevator door would close. Because the elevator might open up and you catch them dead in the act. Or there would be people that's standing there waiting for the elevator. But if you have somebody planted outside of the elevator, it would be nothing. You understand? Because the people that are planted outside the elevator would let other people know what's going down. Now, everybody in the school wasn't with it because some of those people were squares, and there would be some people who would tell. And it was like, why are you worried about what I'm doing in the elevator? Mind your business. And, girl, depending on the day, girls go through what they go through. It might have been that time of the month, and she just felt like, I'm telling. You interrupted me from being able to get to the next floor. And, at that time, my mentality was walk upstairs, whatever. You understand? So anyway, it's going down with me and Shorty this in particular day. Long story short, Shorty got her girlfriends posted up on the 2nd and the 3rd floor. All right. We get on the elevator. I know I got 6 minutes. I know how long it goes up. I know it comes down. This is the best 6 minutes at that time in my life. You young, you doing wild, crazy stuff. And it was going down. No shame, no embarrassment. When that door opened up, if you seen the crack of my behind, oh, well, like, I don't know if I was an exhibitionist, but it was just the rush. You understand? So this is what happened with me and her. Now check it. It had taken time for us to get to that level for me to get her in that elevator. And we actually talked about it because that was like a taboo topic of conversation in that school because everybody knew. You understand? So it was something people talked about and laughed about it. It wasn't considered as being bad. Today, I guess people would say she's a slut and that's a thought and it is this. But at that time, it wasn't like that. It was, I don't know. It's like the diamond that you put on the ring. That was the diamond part. That was I fulfilled the fantasy part. That's the best way I could describe it. So I had talked to this girl up until that time before we got into it. So I knew a lot of things about her. And as I said, she knew about why I was really in the school. So one day we're talking, and this is before I got on the elevator, and she's telling me about the dude that I'm always asking her about because I'm not worried about the other dudes. I'm worried about this dude because she is what I really want, and he is blocking me. But he was older, 45 or 50. I'm in my 20s. Dude looked like he no nonsense. He was intimidating and menacing as fuck. You understand? So she's telling me about him a little bit, but she ends up telling me that she told him I was gay. I'm like, what? And you know what? She laughed about it because she's like, yo, Shabazz, everybody say that anyway. And in my heart, I knew she was telling the truth. And one reason that we really found out, we used to have smoke breaks. So, at whatever time, say 8:45, 10:45, 1:45, whatever, everybody that smoked came outside to smoke cigarettes. I smoked cigarettes. So even if I didn't want to smoke, I would still want to come outside and get the fresh air. Now, everybody that was in that area knew that at 8:45, 10:45, there was going to be 60 girls standing outside Wilford Academy. So dudes would make it their business to come outside during those times so they could try to holler at the girls. In the center of the girls was 2 dudes, me and Renee. So those dudes that was trying to holler at them would always have something derogatory to say to us. And it was always, you're a faggot, you're this, you're that. And you learn to get tough skin and you don't want to fight everybody that says that because it's happening every day. And in your heart you're not, but it's happening every day. And from the outside looking in, if you're not educated and you don't understand the plan of a man, you're going to think what you're going to think. So I would disregard that. So that reinforced what she says when Shabazz, everybody already thinks that anyway. except for those who really knew. And I'm not even going to try to defend the gay. So when I tell y'all this story, when I tell my stories, people always come back and try to use it against me. Well, I'm going to give you something to use against me today, and I do not care. You dig? So now, dude is thinking that I'm gay. The same day, understand, that we have our 6 minutes on that elevator, dude comes to get her. Now I see dude, I'm on the second floor, and I see dude out the window. Now usually he will always just pull up and sit in his car, and she was like a robot. She would make a beehive straight from outside, going straight to his car. Now with the younger guys, sometimes they would sit outside. The thing was to show off your car and have your music blasting. And, they would just sit around, and other girls would come around, and it would be like, niggas chilling on the block. You know how that go with the dope boy. That's how that went. But with this dude, it was different. It was no blasted music. It was none of that. You understand? But this in particular day, dude is sitting in the car. As she's going towards the car, dude gets out the car. He walks around to the passenger side, and they're talking. Now, her back is turned towards the sidewalk because she's facing him, and he's leaning on the passenger side door. But you can tell that he's like saying something to her, and it's not nice. It wasn't pleasant. It wasn't like, "Hey, baby, how was you doing? How you doing today? How was school?" Yada. It wasn't that. It was more like a chastisement, but you couldn't hear what he was saying. Now you can see his expressions in his face, and it was that of authority. And whatever he was saying in authority. And she's like submissive to him, and you can see it through her body language. This is the same day that we got our 6 minutes on. I'm panicking. Because, of course, I can see from upstairs, but I got to come outside the school. And I'm saying to myself, yo, there is no way that he can know. And I remember back in the days, seeing a movie one time, and the dude said, yo, I want to smell your panties. So it was like, yo, in a minute between me leaving that window and going to somewhere in the school, did he smell her panties? Did he, how does he know? So I'm really in panic mode. So I come out, I'm seeing all this as I'm coming out of the school, and I'm walking up the block. I don't know why. I promise you this. She turns around as if she's trying to get relief. And dude is standing there. He looking like he coming out of a Stacy. You know who he reminded me of? You remember American Gangster? Or you remember the dude in Baby Boy? Baby Boy, Tyrese was playing, and then the other dude, the black dude, Ving Rhames. You ever see Ving Rhames in a Stacey Adams commercial? He wear the suits, and like an American Gangster, he got on a gangster hat. He got on one of them, he might have on a yellow suit with a yellow shirt and a yellow tie and a yellow washcloth and yellow silk socks and yellow shoes. Like, it's just too much yellow. But that mentality is what it is. And you see men like that when they're steppers. I don't know, outside of Chicago, stepping isn't as popular as it is in Chicago. But in Chicago, steppers are for older people, and they always dress in unison. And you might see someone literally dressed, from head to toe in the same color, and they'll match everything down to the washcloth to wipe the sweat off their foreheads. And to me, that's just like, yo, I'm not dissing how nobody dressed, to each his own. That's just not Shabazz's. I will match, but I'm not going down to the socks. And then, I might put on some black silk socks. I ain't going with it. If I got on a red shirt, I got to have on red. Nah, I ain't doing all that. Anyway, she turns around as if she's trying to get air and get away from being verbally assaulted, because that's what it looked like was happening. And why did her eyes meet my eyes? When her eyes met my eyes, I almost shitted on myself. Because now be mindful, we had the 6 minute, 2 or 3 hours earlier, and we have each other on each other's bodies. You dig? Understand what I'm saying? Like, her scent is on me. My scent is on her. And I don't think that he knew that, but I'm still questioning what is the problem. So when she looks at me to play it off, you know what I do? And I know I'm going to get killed for this. You know what I said? Hey. I went straight to Wendy Williams. How you doing? Yo, for that 1 second, I was gay. You dig? You want me to tell you why? It wasn't even about the fear. It was the intimidation of it. You understand? And I would have fought with any other I would have fought with any of the other dudes that came through, but with this dude, no. Like, dude was just an older dude. And you know, them older dudes be having switchblades. You know what I'm saying? They be having 22s in their sock. Like, and it's still like that to this day. And they are just no nonsense. You understand? And I really wanted this girl. And then here's the punchline. Yo, you could be her father. Like, 'cause she wasn't nothing but 22. You pushing 55. And you right outside that school. Now, let me tell you the reason why I tell you that story. Because those are the same accusations that people make about R. Kelly with going around to the high schools. Of course, there's an age difference. But the point that I'm trying to say is it happened. And it was happening back in the day. And you want me to tell you another thing? Shorty lied to him about her age. Because what she had told me was she had been messing with him since her mama was alive. Her mama had passed. You understand? She was like 22 then when she told me this. Her mom's passed when she was 15, which would have made him still in his 40s. Her mother passed at 15 years old. She's 22. And he was messing with her since her mother passed. So he wasn't shit. And I didn't take that into account with my intimidation and fear. But throughout the years, I've always remembered that story. I've always remembered where I bowed down to somebody because of intimidation. You understand? And I played myself to save myself. And I did it because I was feeling her just that much. You understand? Like, before the act was committed on the elevator, I really was feeling Shorty. And I guess I was feeling her that way because, you know, I don't know. She wasn't mine. And sometimes when somebody is not yours, it makes you love them or want them even more. And can you sustain a real relationship within those type of situations? You can. And then on top of it, it was intensified because I was young. Here's the reason why I say and have told you that story. It's some R. Kelly shit. And what it does is it reinforces what Shorty just said to you in that clip, because what it's doing is showing you that women lie. And they will lie, you know, to be with whoever that's common. So should dude have been put on trial at that time? And even now when I think back on it, there's no question he should have been put on trial. There's no question that he belonged in somebody's jail for what he had done. Because if he's 40 years old and you messing with a 15-year-old girl, dog, you need to be locked under the jail. You understand? You know what? I'm gonna move away from that. And don't nobody come in my comments with the hey, because I will cut your ass out. But yo, it is what it is. But now let me move on to something else. Let's address some of the witnesses to show the character of R. Kelly. And as I did in the last podcast, I am going to do again. And once I do, I am going to explain that as well, because the parallels there to what is with going on is definitely deep. Did I say that right? I don't know. Check out this clip.
You know, when I worked for Rob, I was just a white girl from the suburbs, and I was coming to visit my sister at her work, which was, she started working for R. Kelly first, and Rob recognized that I clearly had no plan as of yet, and I believe Lindsay made him aware that I was kind of interested in maybe working for him. And so I literally walked into the lounge one day when he was watching TV with a bunch of the guys, and he looked at me and he said, "All right, you're hired." And I said, "Okay, cool." And I had no understanding what my role was going to be. No clue what I was going to do in life, let alone what I was going to do for R. Kelly. But he was so welcoming, and he was such a great guide. He, over time, he just really was one to always defend the underdog, and I definitely was an underdog and in a minority at the time, which brings up another point of the allegations. If Rob was going to hide anything, it certainly wouldn't have been he wouldn't have been trying to hide it from me. I mean, I was at the bottom of the totem pole. But Rob had always been very welcoming and very nice, and that's why we were able to maintain a friendship over the years, the past 20 years. In fact, I moved to Las Vegas when I was about 22, and Rob kept coming out for the Billboard Music Awards, and I met up with him every time. And during one of those times, I was a cocktail supervisor at a nightclub there, and I was being bullied by a couple of my coworkers. And so when I met up with Rob at one of the nightclubs while he was in town, one of the girls that was bullying me was in VIP hanging out with Rob, just thinking she was so cool. And I could tell that when I walked up there, Rob caught the vibe. So he put his arm around me, and he said, he looked at everyone and he said, "All right, y'all, I want you to see her. See her? This is my sister, y'all. This is my sister." And, you know, from that moment, that girl that had been bullying me, she, you know, was all of a sudden very welcoming to me. And it really resolved my issue, because after he did that, I guess I was considered kind of cool. And at work, I was no longer bullied. In fact, I think it kind of gave me job security. So he really helped me in that. And he doesn't, I mean, you know, we've never spoken about that, and I don't even know if he's aware of that to this day, but it really meant a lot. And every time I've ever called him in the past, he always took my call. And I think that's why I really feel, well, I know that's why I feel I have a due diligence to this, you know. It's one thing to just call him and say, "Hey, Rob, I love you, you know, I hope you're okay, and I hope you do well." But it's another thing to fight for someone, to fight for their rights and fight for their freedom. And that is something that I'm willing to do till the very end, because he deserves it.
Let me ask you this. People are going to see this and they're going to say you're defending a pedophile. Let me ask you some personal questions off track of the R. Kelly. Do you know what a pedophile is?
Yes.
Would you in your wildest dreams support a pedophile?
No.
Do you have children?
Yes.
How would you feel if some of the things were being said about your children, about him, was happening to your children? Would it be the same type of defense?
If facts supported it, no. But if facts don't support it, that's rumor. And that's what.
Now, as you can see, she said a mouthful. And the reason why I think that this clip is important, because it shows the character of R. Kelly. It shows that he at one time or another was a protector. He believed in justice. Now, you know, nobody ever wants to show those sides. Although we all know that, yes, he is convicted. Yes, he has been found guilty. You can't make an excuse for that. But there is still a good side to everyone. You know, the foulest person in the world has some good in them. You know, that's why I think the 30-year sentence is excessive. Because as I've shown in the earlier parts of the podcast, there was a lot of lying and deceitfulness, you know, and I believe some of that came on behalf of some of the women, because I believe that, you know, some women will lie about their age, and I think that people can see that. But I covered that, but it still makes me go back to that. Now, what I'm going to say in regards to what she just said, because I know there are going to be people to dispute what she's saying. Yes, she is a part of the Perryman sisters, and they were a part of his trial before. And in the beginning, their story was a little different. They were against R. Kelly. For whatever reason, they decided to flip. And so now they are pro R. Kelly, adamantly. You know, ferociously, they are standing by him. And again, you know, whether you're for or against, to each his own. But what she said, and the reason why I am getting ready to say this, is because there's a question about the family members in the R. Kelly saga. And one is Levi for Kelly. The other two are Lisa and Cassandra Kelly. And here's what my defense has always been. If R. Kelly has acknowledged you as his sisters or cousin or brother, then that's what R. Kelly has done. Who am I to question, you know, what he said? True, there was no DNA. You know, I said that in my documentary. You know, although there's been no DNA to support, you know, biologically what they've said, The man stands on that's his sister. So it also makes you wonder about what she just said, because if you were in the club the night that he announced that she was his sister, would you have taken his word as her actually being his sister, or would you have immediately disputed it and said, oh no, it's impossible for her to be a sister because she's white? Because there is a possibility that you can be black and you can have a white sister. That could actually happen. Now, I would know that wasn't his sister, and I would know the reason why he's saying it. But understand what I'm about to say. There's a key word in the last few sentences that I just said. And you know what it is? The reason. There's a reason why he said what he said about her. There's a reason why he said that this is my sister. There's an undertone to it. But only R. Kelly knows what that undertone and reason is. So if you're a fan of R. Kelly, quite naturally, you would agree with his rationale and his reasoning. And here's what I'll say. There's a reason he's acknowledged Lisa and Cassandra. Whether you want to admit it or not, there is a reason. I don't know the reason. You understand? I don't know the significance of it. I'm not here to say it is or it isn't. I don't know the reason why Levi for Kelly is saying that R. Kelly is his cousin. I can assume. But if I assume, as I've said before, I don't want to start a beef. But what I will say, just to be non-biased, sometimes reasons for everyone is a benefit. That's my cousin. Well, that's my brother. And, you could take that and wave that flag around to get what you want done, or to make people believe you, or to feel important. I am going to give you both sides of the story. Again, I am not bashing anyone. I am just basing what I am saying off of what she just said. You understand? Enough of that. Let's move on to the next part of it. The next part of it is another key word, and we're going to go back to reasoning and rationale. The reason why people behave the way they do. Now understand, I am not going to give you my opinion on that. I will let a trained psychologist do that. And I will let a psychologist that has been in the industry for over 15 years. And she sits at the board of psychologists in California. She's the top dog. I went and found her because I felt like in order to present this documentary, in order to present whatever I was going to say, I needed something to substantiate it other than my opinion and my personal feelings. You understand? So I went to get somebody who was trained in human behavior. What I did not even see in court in the first case. And it's amazing to me why they didn't go to those lengths to show, guilt or innocence. There was a lot of that missing. Perhaps maybe in this trial, they're going to have trained psychologists, human behavioral specialists, whoever else that they need on both sides to prove it, because I think both sides lacked what was needed to get a definitive answer. Excuse me. And I believe that definitive answer came as a result of personal feelings, social media, and word on the street. Not hard facts, not hard evidence. And when I say hard facts and hard evidence, I mean DNA and this, that, and other. Because the reason why this topic is so debatable, because there are so many open holes, because there's nothing definitive on either side to say this is accurate, right, and exact, in my opinion. But obviously it was enough for a jury to come back with the verdict that they did. But what's amazing to me, again, is why nobody presented this type of evidence. You understand? I'm just a nigga from the streets. I don't have no masters, no PhDs, no none of that. You understand? I think just like you do. And to me, those are just common, obvious questions. So somewhere along in that, I feel like it was a witch hunt. It was an easy takedown. And I don't think that, Surviving R. Kelly spearheaded it. I believe Jim DeRogatis spearheaded it. And because of him being a white man, and because of him being with BuzzFeed and Rolling Stone, and, some of the heavyweights, his words were going to be taken with weight. And that's just usually how it is. And I've said this before, and I'll say again, until in America, and understand what I'm saying, any person, regardless to color, creed, or nationality, can walk into a court and get a fair trial based on the evidence, we have a problem. And what I'm saying is, that's not how it is for a black man in America. For you to even be taken seriously at all, you better go in there with a white man. You better go in there with one of their own peers. You have to. Because if you don't, yeah, you could be black and you could be a lawyer, but you are not going to be respected the way a white man is. Is that racist? There is no question that is racist. Is it racist because I say it? It is not. It's an observation that is real. And this is also what made what she said more important, because she was a white girl. You understand? And I think R. Kelly had the insight and the foresight to one day hire her immediately, because in America, even in corporations, you have to have a certain quota or percentage of nationalities, be it black, Arab, Spanish, whatever, because they're going to hit you, or people are going to start to say that you're a racist company. For a black man who was on the level of R. Kelly, you needed a white girl to be a receptionist, to be an assistant, or be something, because for whatever reason, it just makes it seem more official. You understand? If a black person walks into an office and there's a black lady sitting at the desk, the rapport and the conversation is entirely different if you're talking to a white woman. Don't ask me why that is, but just think about what I'm saying to you. We have these preconceived notions that are instilled in us from day one. And some things just make other things seem more official. How, even though you're R. Kelly, even though you're whoever you are, you need that white part of your team. Dr. Dre is, they say he's a billionaire, but then they say Jay-Z is the first billionaire. But whatever Dr. Dre is, Dr. Dre was great within his legacy. He was excellent at making beats. But Dr. Dre did not turn into Dr. Dre until Jimmy Iovine came along, which is a white man, and they created Beats by Dre, and now he's sitting at billionaire status. You understand? Like, you can have one to put in the work, but you got to have the other to carry it in. That's America. And that's what I think R. Kelly seen in immediately hiring her from jump. Like, some people may not agree. And I think that was a smart move, because if you want to be universal, you have to you have to appear to be equal, and you want to be able to reach all people. You want to make everybody feel comfortable. You understand? Because there are some white followers and white people who love R. Kelly's music, and there's nothing wrong with that. You understand? From a musical perspective, I get it 100%. From an opinionated perspective, I don't get it. Because no matter how you feel and what you say, I don't think that those voices are qualified to speak on black matters, because you're not black. You can understand, you can comprehend, but you're not black. So you can't see the question, you can't see it the same way that I see it. And that's not taking a shot. And that isn't racist, because I can't sit down in a white neighborhood and tell you a white perspective. I'm not white. And my voice is not going to be heard in a room of white people the way it would be is if I was in a room with black people. That's human behavior. If AC/DC, Rod Stewart, or whomever else that's white that is great was on these... Give you one right now. Elvis Presley. My voice would be drowned out in an Elvis Presley crowd. They would not accept the criticism of me saying he's racist. You want me to tell you why? Look at what's going on right now in America. They're making him an idol, a hero. There's a movie about him. He was sleeping with 13 and 14-year-olds. You dig? So us complaining and screaming, black people could say all day, hold up, don't go after R. Kelly just that soon. Okay, if we're gonna go after R. Kelly, let's go after Elvis Presley. But they're not doing that. One, which is black, is being slain. The other, which is white, is being made an American Idol. So you can sit down and argue with Shabazz and say what Shabazz says is racist and this, that, and the other, but the facts don't lie. Argue me that. Riddle me this. Why is it like that? So when I hear the voices that aren't of color put their 2 cents in, I have to look at them as a suspect. It's suspicious verbiage. You understand? And it's not to say that you don't know what you're talking about, but are you qualified to stand on this level and say it? And see, the bad thing about us in America is we don't like to tell them truths. Like that's not what we're going to say. You know, you could be black or you could be white, and whichever color you are, whichever group that you're in, you know, if somebody says what I just said, you know, people are going to act like I didn't just say that. Because they don't want to face the truth. Nobody's going to tell you like, hold up, white girl. You ain't qualified to be in this conversation. You're going to have to sit on, the spectator bench. And nobody's going to say, hold up, black man. You're not qualified to be in this conversation. You're going to have to sit on the spectator bench. But in your heart, you already know what it is. What we need to do in order to change that is to be honest. Until we open up honest lines of communication, we will continue to have the Elvis Presleys and R. Kellys of the world. That's just how I see it. I could be wrong. I don't know. But what I do know is what I don't know, I go and ask someone for them to break it down. And this is what I did with a psychologist. And I not just did it with her. Of course, I had to have a black one because she could tell me and diagnose from a black perspective. But I went above and beyond that. And I got a white one, too. And in the future podcast, I am going to show her. I tried my best to do my due diligence to dig as deep as I possibly could to get to the bottom of this story. And I was not swayed from the left or the right. And that within itself created a problem with his legal team from the door. And people say, well, what did the legal team do that was so bad? At the end of the day, that is a question that is so moronic that it's not funny. You want me to tell you why? Just speaking about your client while a client is on trial and delivering sensitive information is a violation of ethics. You understand? Like, what lawyer hires a documentarian to tell the story of somebody who's on trial? Did your client know that? Does he know that you're divulging information? And that's not just what I'm saying. I got it on tape. For those who've seen the documentary, you've seen it. And unfortunately, there were several of them. As a matter of fact, everybody on his legal team had something to say. Since when do you have something to say about an open, ongoing, present case that is national in the media of that magnitude? You are supposed to say no interviews. Even Jennifer Bonjean gets on Twitter and occasionally says something. And to me, that is the craziest thing. And that takes me back to what I was saying earlier. All you did, according to Andrew Wyatt, was go and get people to continue the same circle and service of snakeism. Because I've yet to see one lawyer come in and do what a lawyer is really supposed to do. I can't talk about that right now. My client is currently on trial. It wouldn't be in his best interest to comment. But you know what they've all done up until this very day? They've turned into rock stars. And whether they're getting $1 or not, you cannot buy certain types of publicity. So although you may not be getting monetary gain coming from R. Kelly, you're getting the gain that you can't buy because you're associated with the case. And this is why you're a part of it. Truth hurts, don't it? But it's the truth. Should I not say that? You guys seem to not be able to see that, but I do. And you know what else I see? I see what the psychologist is getting ready to say. Let's see if you can see the same thing too. Take a look.
First important experience is like at the beginning of your brain development. Those are the people and those are the experiences that you either wind up reinforcing or repairing. So for a child with parents who were damaging, neglectful, abusive in any way, they are either going to seek to repeat that or to seek to heal it or not even know that they're damaged. It's very difficult. It's like this. If you are always hurt, how do you know what health is? If you started off from a hurt place, how do you know what health is? I think that money, I think that fame can make those things temporarily feel good, but I'm a believer based on clinical practice and 15 years in this field that people often reflect on their early childhood experiences to reinforce who they are inside. And if you don't heal that, so I'm not saying that he couldn't enjoy fame or anyone can enjoy fame or money or enjoy the adulation because it would be a high for anyone. Who doesn't like to be told they're great in some way? I think we all would. But if you haven't reconciled, my mother loves me, my father loves me, I'm a good person, I don't think that other stuff matters as much.
Based on what I showed you, young years in Tennessee. What is your opinion on someone who would allow that type of behavior or accept that type of behavior?
She looked, she struck me as young, right? Not young chronologically, but perhaps like young-minded, right? Okay, so I look at her, and the question you asked makes me want to ask, who were her parents? Did her parents show love to her? Was she in an environment where health and love were plentiful? And I'm not necessarily only saying parents. If she didn't have a mother or a father in the home, did she have a grandmother in the home? I ask that because I know that's a huge part of the Black community. Grandmothers, grandfathers, aunties, uncles. So I would ask if she had people that drilled down to the basics of self-worth. And that's the issue with narcissistic personality disorder. The self-worth is derived from the outside. The theory is that because there was no repeated experience of you are a worthy person just by virtue of being alive, you don't know that, so no matter what the outside world tells you, if you don't have an inner knowing about that, it's always going to be difficult. Nothing will be enough.
Do you think that's something that's dominant in the Black community?
That's a hard question. I think it's dominant, unfortunately, in the American community in a lot of ways because I think that it can be dominant in the Black community. I think that the challenge for the Black community is that we live in America, brought to America, and because racism is it's weaved into the fabric of American society, Black individuals, African American individuals, may honestly and legitimately feel like unwanted and unworthy because racism is pervasive in many institutions and in ways that people still do not want to acknowledge. So the self-worth piece as a Black American, when you have an interaction, an interface with white America or white institutions, or, you know, like people even saying racist things, racist tweets, social media, look at all of the police cases, you know, from Michael Brown to Trayvon Martin to all the recent. Those are things that I think will always be a challenge unless they are completely, you know, unless they're fixed in America, and I think we got a long way to go. I think that Black America has every right to struggle with self-worth when it comes to looking at yourself and maintaining your sense of wholeness and maintaining who you are and feeling good about yourself when America is constantly like, you're not enough.
Now, she also said a mouthful. And be mindful, she is dangerous. You know, I'm going to tell you behind the scenes. When I first went out to L.A. to get her, right, I went to a prestigious school. We had to have clearance. She needed clearance to speak. She wanted to talk about it, but there was an administrator there. He was very helpful. I'm not going to say that he wasn't, but there was a chain of command. And the chain of command, I believe in my heart, in my gut of guts, was, what is she going to say? You understand? Because when you come from a Black perspective, you can't help but to put Black life inside of it, regardless to if you're professional or not. And the reason why I say that is initially she started off with a description as to what would turn a person into what they are accusing R. Kelly of. But then the conversation ended off into Black people having to be accepted, having to be shown or told or questioned if they are enough. You dig? And we talking about a prestigious psychologist in a prestigious school who is making a 6-figure salary, a Black woman. She is to be commended all day, but she is dangerous in white America. You know why? Because she speaks the truth. And anytime you speak the truth, you are a threat. Because let me tell you something, yo, and this is outside of R. Kelly. You are good enough. You are big enough. There is a value in your thought process, be it whether you are for R. Kelly or against him. You never let nobody tell you nothing different. Never. You know, I always stray and I always try to tell y'all, yo, you know, it is what it is. The game is the game. But I am going to try to enlighten you and uplift you with the truth. You may not like my delivery or you may not like what I say, but I am saying it with the best of intention because I am black and I want my people to win. Does that mean I'm going against anybody else? It does not. This is part of the reason why I am in defense of the treatment of R. Kelly, because he's black. And you know what? When you believe in something, you have to take those same beliefs for rapists, murderers, you know, for everybody. Like, fair is fair. And no matter how horrendous or how bad the crime was that is committed, there still deserves to be fair and equal treatment. Even if that person is facing a death penalty, you fight to try to prove whatever innocence you can. But if you lose, you have to accept the fact that this person deserves the death penalty. It shouldn't be just based on rumor and innuendo that you immediately throw the key away. And for Black America, a lot of times for just being black, you are discarded. Go fill out a job application and say your name is Shaquisha Taekwonisha. Your application gonna get put to the side. And you want me to tell you why? It's simply because of that name. This gotta be a black person. And with a name like Shaquisha Taekwonisha, she may not be a good look. That mentality, it still exists. And you have to always consider yourself great. You understand? And I don't care about because, you know, this is R. Kelly. Because for me, as I've always said, I am going to give you the parallels of this case and compare them to life. You dig? So I am always going to uphold and champion our people because a part of our people, and this is just being real, and this is not about anybody in particular, but some of our people are scumbags. Some of our people have mental illnesses. Some of our people are great athletes. Some of our people are entertainers who are at an excellent status. Some of our people are psychologists. The point is, our people means all of our people. You cannot be selective into who you consider to be your people. Because if you're black, you're a part of black culture. But you cannot ostracize one portion of black people because they didn't finish college. You cannot ostracize one portion of black people because they don't live in an uppity neighborhood. We frown and we look down on each other and we fight to get out of those situations. But at the end of the day, it is your duty, it is your moral responsibility to come back and educate your people. I'm not saying you have to live there. I'm not saying you have to agree. But what I am saying is at least give them the message. You understand? You have to be fair and non-biased. You have to be impartial in delivering the message. And the reason why is they're not going to tell us, yo. Yo, like when I really got to her, because I got 2 or 3 hours of tape on her too. The longer I sat there, the more the real black woman psychologist came out. That does not take away from her credentials or her credibility to speak. But the longer the conversation went on, we started getting to her core and what she really felt like. And that is what I believe that school was scared of. And for black people, you can't help but to finally get to what the real reasons and the underlying of what's going on in America. See, you can have a 3-minute conversation and that'll never come out. You understand? And I hold that and I'm going to apply it to Angelo. Because I think Angelo has got many issues. But at the end of the day, I am not going to pass judgment and castrate him as well. We will deal with the issues. But at the end of the day, if they line me up, Angelo up, and several other black men up on the wall, we are all going to be considered as black. When the police put out a description when something happens, they say black male, 22, 6'1", blue jeans, etc., etc. It doesn't say black educated male who went to Harvard It doesn't say black ghetto male who comes from the projects. The key words is black male. And when the police go out to get you, they are looking for black males. And a lot of times they act like they can't tell the difference in blacks because they could be looking for one, and up the block, they done rounded up 5 black men who ain't got nothing to do with it. And you know why they did it? Because over the radio, it came, a black man was a suspect. And you know what that means? All black men are suspects. They're not going to tell you that. These are the conversations that we need to have, the ones that are uncomfortable, the ones that are aligned with the truth. So what I'm going to tell you, and the truth is, you are whatever you want to be. Excuse me. You are that person. And you do not allow someone to take you off of the you are, because some people are going to say he's arrogant. He's pompous. He think he all that. But dog, listen to me. Shorty, listen to me. If you don't believe in yourself, who else is going to believe in you? You don't let nobody take you off of that. I don't care who thinks what. If this is what you need to do, then that is what you do. Even in our music, Mary J. Blige just put out an album, and she was in low self-esteem. You think about it. This is Mary J. Blige. She went through what she went through with Ken Do, and I know Ken Do. Ken Do is a character. Ken Do is an ex-husband. And the things that were going on, I was kind of surprised. I don't know Mary like that, but I definitely know Ken Do like that. But the point that I'm trying to make is her latest song was Good Morning Gorgeous. She got to wake up in the morning and tell herself, good morning, gorgeous. This is the world that we live in, where we have to brainwash ourselves. We have to tell ourselves that we are good enough, that we are great enough to just walk outside to compete. Think about that. You feel me? Think about what we got to go through for the extras. And at the end of the day, y'all might say, what does it have to do with R. Kelly? Everything. Because if somebody was there to tell him you are good enough, you are great, you are this, even though that might be egotistical and it might have made him, whatever it made him, it would have reinforced that he's enough. When you don't feel like you're enough, you have to take advantage of other people to make you feel like you're enough or make you feel like you're doing something. Those are self-esteem issues. Those are narcissistic traits and behaviors. And there is a lot of that. And we can put a stop to a lot of that if we just uplifted each other. And let me tell you something, although that sounds corny, you can uplift yourself. And if people don't understand that, that's their problem. I'm good enough. You understand? I'm great enough. You understand? I don't care what you think. You can talk to you blue in the face, but I'm going to do me. And if you can't deal with that, that's on you. Because if I stop to think any other way, I'm going to be at the bottom of the barrel somewhere. And don't nobody give a damn about somebody that's in the bottom of the barrel. You don't want to hear nobody come to you every day complaining about what they ain't got, what they can't do. How come somebody holding me down? After a while, you'd be like, nigga, get out my face, because all you are is depression. I'm going to be around somebody who's showing me their greatness. I'm not going to get jealous of that. You know what I'm going to say? Yo, son, how do I get down? Put me on. You understand? That's my speech as far as that's concerned. So let me move away from that before I get too preachy. But I'm laughing. But I'm dead ass serious, son. Make no mistake about that. I mean everything I say, and I will challenge anybody. I promise you that. That's on my mama. My mama dead. That's enough though. Let me get into Angelo, because he just goes against everything with his type of answers. And let's listen to what he got to say.
And you know this to be true. You have girls, and not to say your daughter, but not to say an age group, that target celebrities. If they don't get the celebrities, they target the dope boys. They target the niggas that got the Benzes and the Lambos and the Range Rovers and the whatever. Because they know they got money. Most of those dudes are older. I think part of the reason the black community is so split is because we know that that's a problem within our community. How do you answer a question like that? Knowing that there are girls that target men like that.
And how I answer that? you take your child out the hood, you take them away from that, and you teach them the right way. And if you can't take them away from it, because everybody not fortunate enough to just up and move, you sit down and you don't sugarcoat anything with them. You let them know the facts or what the end result of that. The same way our parents set us down when we chose to break law and get into a certain world. Guess what they said? You know, it's two things to that: death or prison. So the same way we sit there and we love our children, we gotta be more open and tell them the truth. The difference with my daughter, it wasn't no secret. We openly speak on. But if I had any increment that this man and they had a relationship going, my daughter wouldn't have never lasted out of 2015 to be with this guy. It wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened. That's period.
So what was you have done to stop it?
My daughter wouldn't have went. That would have been it. That would have been whatever trip that she came back off of from whatever show that they went and he performed at. That would have been the last show. That would have been the last show. When my wife drove my daughter to, I want to say Jacksonville, somewhere, one of these shows, to let her see the performance, because that's all she was doing, was learning the behind the scene of putting on shows. People may not understand it. There's civilians at this. That's this fans of the music. But what I was mad at is the simple fact that there's so many artists. There's so many grown artists out here. There's so many artists out here that own record labels, that has been in this part of the industry, that could have went on there and not spoke on every situation, but they could have spoke in favor of this situation and say, you know what, I was a young artist, or I know of this young artist, or I was a record label that, hey, you know what, y'all gotta ease up on this situation, because let me give you a fact, not throw out no bullshit, but give the facts. And the fact is, when you're dealing with a minor in any entertainment part of the business, most of them, you have to get a guardianship. Most of them doesn't want the parent to manage her. You know, you got a few that do get through the cracks, that fight hard, they got different connections. It's different. You got connections you can get in. Some, you have to get guardianship. You have to get them around these certain people, get certain people to look after them while their career is developing. And most of them is the A&R. A&R got a lot to do with it. So, you know, being as though nobody spoke on this and you only hear it from the parent, I see why the world's saying, oh, well, he making excuses. There's no excuse. Because if I didn't ever have to put my daughter in a situation where she needed someone to be around her, then it wouldn't have happened. One of us would have been there the whole time, or she wouldn't have been there.
Angelo is quite a character. And he makes sense with some of the things that he says. I'm not even going to say that he doesn't, because he definitely makes sense. But what makes me question him is this. To say she wouldn't have been there if it was, a different type of a situation makes me only think she should have never been there from jump. Why take the chance? If you know or you've heard that when you walk down block A, there are 10 gunmen, right? And you're with your child, do you take the chance to walk down that block? Now, I'm not saying guilt or not, but everybody has heard the R.Kelly stories, and we've heard those stories over the years. As a responsible parent, you should have never left her with him in the first place. It doesn't matter if it was a tour or otherwise. And not just R. Kelly. My daughter is not being dropped off nowhere with no man alone, period. It's not going to be we're going to give him a shot first and then we're going to take it after the fact. That's not how it goes. But in his mind, that's how it goes. And you know what? For him, he really believes that. That was his truth. A lot of people are going to dispute what he has to say, and I get it. But what you have to understand is everybody thinks different. And sometimes during the difference, we do wrong. There's no manual to be a parent. Some parents make the right decisions, some parents don't. Some parents have children who do not listen. There's a variety of different things, but no one has the actual answer from the door. But what you do have is feelings and common sense. And as being a man, I am not going to endanger the lives of any of my children. my cousins, my nephews, my nieces, my whomever, my friends. That's just how the game go for me. You understand? So I'm not going to say, he was wrong. You understand? Like, it's not a call for me to say whether he is wrong or right. It's a call for me to say, would Shabazz, would I do that? The answer is definitely no. I'm not doing that. You understand? But can I judge him? We all like to say, yo, you shouldn't judge. That's nonsense. Everybody judges everybody. People judge you based on how you dressed. People judge you based on how you come outside. You go to a job for a job interview, you're going to be judged based on your appearance before you get hired or told we will get in contact with you later. That's what we do as people. So before anyone says, you shouldn't do this. Yeah, we shouldn't. But does it happen? There's no question it's happening. It's happening with Angelo. Like, that's just how it is. Yo, listen, I can go on and on, pardon me, because I've definitely exceeded an hour. It's just so much stuff. And like, I have a ton more of stuff that I never released. You know what I'm saying? Like, trust me with that. And, in time to come, I may talk about some other things, but I can tell you this, I have a major announcement and a major surprise to come with my next podcast. So things may change for me. With the willing and the blessing of Allah, things are going to change, and I don't know if I'm even still be doing podcasts like this. It just is what it is. We got to grow. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you can hold me to it because I'm going to tell you what it is. I ain't going to do what everybody else do. So listen, I appreciate you. Thank you for listening to me. I'm sorry for the extended amount of time. And I want you all to have a nice day. I'm out.